All right. That was one sportscast that really looked at the national view of things, wasn't it? But a lot of baseball there. You gotta like that. Hey, it's Marky Bilson, your voice of choice for a new generation of Tri-City sports fans. Name of the program is Tri-City Sports Now. We own the Tri-Cities because I got the best guests and the hardest hitting opinions in the market. And on today's show, a bit of a change. Jerry Bonkowski had an emergency. And so we're not going to talk NASCAR with him at 1. Sorry, we hope to do this on Monday. I really wanted to talk to him about the race in Daytona as well as what's coming up in Kentucky, but see if we can't get some NASCAR, around 1 o'clock and all that. I do apologize, but yeah, he had, and he's actually asking for your prayers. If you want to see it, Jerry Bonkowski on Facebook, it would explain much, but Jerry won't be joining me at 1 o'clock today, and so we wish him the best. At 12:15, however, in just a few minutes, Jennifer Garland Johnson of the Tri-Cities Thunder, we've had her on several times here. She's going to talk about her Biggie football game. I'll be going to it. For the National Championship of the United States Women's Football League. There is a really big event going on there at Sullivan East this weekend, and what a great precursor for the, shall we say, standard football season. Football's now 12 months a year. I mean, the Alliance didn't make it, but the United States Women's Football League did, A little bit fewer costs with the United States Women's Football League, but which helped out a little bit. But no, they're talking about this and how the players, I was even talking to her beforehand, when we were going and discussing about the love of the game and how the Thunder survive. These are players who are playing because they love football. And yet they are women. They are not, it's not, I know Unica had a couple of female players last season, but generally speaking, yeah, the female football player, professional if you will, although as I said, I do not believe the Thunder, their revenues are not necessarily so that they're going to be distributing out, six-figure incomes of their players. I think we all know that. These players are playing for the love of the game. And usually that means that they grew up playing another sport. So that's kind of intriguing. Johnson has been playing football for 6 years now. Football, though, that's what's coming up here in just a few. Then at 1:30, it's Josh Brown and Oklahoma Nation. So much baseball to talk about. And the Braves are in first place. And, we talked a little bit to Chris Doherty 2 days ago about the Danville Braves and how they're in first place, just like the Atlanta Braves. Well, the Danville Braves, yeah, they're not by the same comfortable margin that the Atlantas are over the Washingtons and Philadelphias, the standings you just heard of right there on our sportscast. But there might be a reason for the Braves' success, and that's a change of organizational philosophy, a difference between their philosophy and what the Phillies do. Talk a little bit about that. But I want to begin and tell you something I've always told you, and it's that the media covering the Vols is usually sympathetic. And I'm seeing a little bit of about that this week. So speaking of football, because it's 2 months away, that sort of thing. Although it is tomorrow, if it's the United States Women's Football League. So anyway, remember last year with the Tennessee Volunteers, just, Jeremy Pruitt's first season, didn't know who was going to be the quarterback, was it going to be Guarantano, was it going to be Chris, this sort of thing. And here comes Pruitt, the man who doesn't know what asparagus was until he was 32, trying to, mold together and resurrect a football program that had fallen down to 4 and 8 doldrums. And so you wanted to read articles, from Tennessee football practice saying, this quarterback is throwing the ball farther. This is what happened in the Oklahoma drills. I'm sure they don't do Oklahoma drills anymore, but, yeah, you wanted to do stuff like that. Who's progressing, who'll start. What do you think the organizational philosophy, the strategies might be for Jeremy Pruitt? But instead we got articles right before the first scrimmage that read, Vols have good time in church. And by the way, this is Marky's monologue, which you can read on Medium and medium.com, Marky Bilson, search for it here. And you'll read then and see I've linked that article. I'm not making that up. Vols have good day in church. That was actually, that's propaganda, folks. I wonder what Arian Foster thought about it. But I think this week we've gotten a little more of the same. David M. Hale over at ESPN champion quarterback Jared Guarantano's low interception rate of last season, suggesting a breakout season for 2019. Now, no one knows, including Guarantano himself, how he's going to do. And there's room for saying, hey, he didn't throw a lot of interceptions last year. Maybe he's a coming star. Didn't work for Jeff Hostetler and Neil O'Donnell, did work for Aaron Rodgers, right? Okay, so, there's that. Meanwhile, the football power index that ESPN has put out has given individually the Vols the upper hand in 9 of their 12 games, which I thought was really high. I was very surprised they were given the upper hand in the Missouri game. The other 8, not so much. The Missouri game, and admittedly that was about 50-50, but it's in Columbia. Kelly Bryant's with the Tigers, offensive line real good for the Tigers. You ask me who I think's going to win that game right now, I'm going to tell you Missouri, okay? You ask me who I think's going to win Tennessee, Georgia State, Tennessee. You ask me who I think's going to win Tennessee, Missouri. Right now, as of this time, the folly of trying to pick a football game in July and November, I think it'll be Missouri, okay? So I was surprised that they gave him the edge. My opinion. But what happens is that makes people think that this is going to be the breakout year for the Tennessee Volunteers. And it comes after 2 losing seasons. And it comes with a fan base that really wants them to have that breakout season. Of course, for that matter, Rice fans want the Owls to have a breakout season. That's not... Fans want their team to win. That's not news. But here's the deal. Nobody's suggesting, and the Vols still, even in the most optimistic of projections, they're not Florida, Georgia, or Alabama. We know that, okay? But I'm just reminded of 3 years ago because there were similar projections surrounding Tennessee. I wonder how much those projections really contributed to the program's demise. Think about this. 3 years ago, Tennessee's the favorite to win the SEC East. Butch Jones, believe it or not, is a popular man. The glory days were going to be back. And after that Florida victory, you thought, and after that 5-0 start, number 9 in the country, you thought the glory days were going to be back. And then the plug got pulled on the drain, and nothing's been the same since then. Vols have only won 13 games in 2.5 seasons since that time. And I think we can safely say the 2016 Vols were overrated. Just that year, 2017 NFL draft, Florida gets 10 players selected in the draft. Tennessee gets 8 year after 2016. So people are going on those projections. They saw the Vols rising. By projections, I mean, recruiting rankings, which really mean next to nothing and are often biased towards what programs are recruiting you. Okay, you're never going to see a 5-star player go to ETSU. Does that mean that ETSU will never have a pro football player? Of course not. Think about that for a second. And anyway, the Vols, like I said, they beat Florida. It's the only time they've beaten them since 2005. And in large part, the reason they beat them was because of Jim McElwain's strategy. Remember, 3 and out, run, pass, run, pass. Third quarter, they went 3 and out in 3 straight possessions and just squandered their 21-0 lead into a 38-28 defeat. But here's the deal. If you look at now, on that and I know there's a benefit of hindsight, but that 2016 Florida team now has 14 players that are going to be in the NFL this year. Think about that. 14 players in the NFL. Playing on defense alone, let alone offense. 2016 Gators. Not all of them started. I mean, some were, backups, underclassmen, that sort of thing. You know how many Tennessee has off of their defense from 2016? Who'll be in the NFL? 2. You'll have Derek Barnett with the Eagles. You'll have Rashard Golden with the Panthers. Now, there is a chance that Cam Sutton, that's saying that he's not going to make the Steelers. And, yeah, he's about 50-50 shot, I'd say. And LaTroy Lewis, journeyman making the Titans, probably not. But it could happen. So you might have 4 players off that 2016 defense for the Vols in the NFL this year. But Gators will have 14. Now, again, that's the benefit of hindsight, but it just also shows you, look, recruiting classes, really you don't know until 4 years and maybe even longer down the line. And so the optimism surrounding the 2016 Vols was based on recruiting rankings. It was based on, hey, they were 9-4 last year. They're on their way back. This is Tennessee. It's going to happen. When it really hadn't happened in about a decade since then. And so what happened is that Tennessee had a second consecutive 9-4 season, but that wasn't good enough. Even though you had to go back to 2004 to find a Tennessee team that had lost fewer games. 4 lost seasons had become the high water mark since 2004 for the Tennessee Volunteers. Now, folks, that's a trend. And I mention this because, and by the way, I'm not suggesting when I say this that the Vols would be better off with Butch Jones as their coach. I do not think that is the case. I do think that 2016 was the classic case of asking for too much too soon. And preseason projections had a lot to do with that, but now we're seeing the same thing. 2 straight losing seasons, and the ESPN FPI says 9-3. Actually, I guess they sort of say 8-4, but if you pick the games individually, they say, okay, one of those games we figure that they'll lose, that the Vols are favored, and, that sort of thing. But if you went strict letter of the law, every single game, that's 9-3. Folks, here's the deal. If the Vols go 8-4 this season, that would be outstanding. 7-5, 6-6, yeah, it's mediocre, but, you know what? It's progression. And more realistic. Another 5-7 is not acceptable. We'll give you that. Okay, that's when you have a right to complain. But if the expectations are that this year Tennessee will have its best season in 15 years, really? I'm not seeing that. And if you really think Jared Guarantano is going to take college football by storm, again, I'm not necessarily seeing that improvement. Yeah. Junior year, that's usually what happens. Most underrated quarterback in college football. It's a bit much. So temper the expectations, folks. Don't make this be 2016 again. Again, 8-4, you ought to jump up and down and beat on your chest. 7-5, 6-6, more realistic. Another 5-7, and yeah, you got a heck of a lot to complain about. So don't overrate the Vols. That's all I'm saying. Because you know what? The Vols for the past decade or so have been overrated. And I just wonder if that is why the program has continually spun its wheels during this time. I'm Marky Bilson. We're going to talk some more football. We're going to talk female football. We're going to talk the Tri-Cities Thunder. We're going to talk to a player who will be competing for a national championship. Tri-Cities Sports Now.
Of Shrek, Donkey,